Hey, Mars Hill Community Church and beyond, whoever's tuning into this. This is Tom Gray, and this is Knowing More, our podcast where we take the questions that had been submitted on Sundays in and a part of our services, or even since Sundays, and just explore them in a little more depth in a way that I hope is productive and helpful. So, obviously, we were looking at the arrest and the trial of Jesus at the end of Mark 14 Sunday. And I love this question. I answered it in the first service, but it was so good that I wanted to do it here on the podcast for any folks that were in the second service and didn't hear. But the question is this: how do we know that Christianity isn't one big confirmation bias, that we can say mere coincidences are miracles as confirmation of what we believe to be true? That is such a great question. And at the heart of our pursuit of truth, and I think one of the distinctive traits, character traits of truth that gives us confidence when we're pursuing truth, it gives us confidence that we've found it. One of the distinguishing traits is this: that it is wide open to examination and questioning. And so this kind of a question is not only good and allowable, it's necessary. We've got to intensely scrutinize all of the claims to truth, all of the claims of the basic core fundamental tenets of the faith that we say are the truth and that we build our lives and our eternities on. So this is huge. And I would say, in light of that, as you look at it, and we should examine the truth claims across the board in the major world religions or philosophies, whatever they are. And if any of them have any other approach to tough scrutinization, that ought to be part of an indicator that maybe that's not truth, because truth can withstand the most heated cross examinations. So those places, I know I've had long conversations at different points in times, for example, with Jehovah's Witnesses folks, and kind of bears a little bit of a mark of cultic groups and the way they do things. Basically, they do not allow their members to read other other groups' publications, other books. That's a tightly enforced thing among them. No, you can't read that other stuff. To me, that says, like, wait a second, that is a mark of uh, makes me doubt, pretty intensely that, wait a second, because the nature of truth, if there is a truth, like we hope there is, and like, of course, now we're claiming there absolutely is, and Jesus himself said he was the embodiment of everything that is truth, then it can withstand any amount of analysis or examination that we bring to it. And so we should. So this great question, and here's my answer in the big picture is just this: that the claims of the Bible, the claims of Jesus, uh, the nature of them is that they are completely rooted in reality, in historic, factual details, places, times, peoples, names. Even this thing that we had Sunday, our text of Scripture. I mean, it names the servant of the high priest who got his ear chopped off. His name is Malchus, it says. And so all of this, and what we know through one thing that's very encouraging, if you put your faith in Jesus, as the Bible presents that we should, and Jesus as the 66 books of the Bible make clear to us, this ought to be a very significant source of confidence for your well-placed faith. And that is that the external evidence and the analysis, and nothing has been scrutinized in a critical way, even, and people looking for flaws and errors and to pick it apart, other than the Bible itself and what's claimed therein. But for example, we're sure that the first gospel and gospel accounts would have been written even in the early 50s AD. And with Jesus dying, being arrested, crucified in roughly 33 AD, you're looking at a 20-year gap. And so the scrutiny available there and that had to be applied there was complete. For example, I mean, highly likely this guy Malchus is alive then. So as these things are written and spread across the world, the incredible volume of copies that scribes are making of these, which we have, obviously thousands of that have come down through the centuries. The beginning of that was immediate, vast, expansive. These are real dates, real people, real events that can be absolutely denied categorically in truth and reality if they are not true. And so you have that kind of all across the board, and especially in the gospel accounts, everything about Jesus. You have Peter, you have people that are alive. It would be like if you were to write a book today about 9/11 in the US, the terrorist attacks of 9/11. Here we are in 2023. We could easily, and the society would, we would call call you out, call your bluff if you didn't get it right, if something was in error. Why? Because it's 20 years ago. People lived through it, people saw it, people remember it, and people are still alive that you can go talk to, and interview. So that's the nature of Christianity, biblical faith, not just about Jesus and the events, but really throughout. And though written records, I talked a little bit about just the Dead Sea Scrolls and the weight of veracity they add to just what was presented in the Old Testament historically, what was presented prophetically about Messiah, and so much more. It's just overwhelming. And so one of the beautiful things, and when I just got back from that trip to Israel, one of the beautiful things about going there is it really does connect you more deeply to the factual, historic reality of the details. So the Christian religion, correctly understood, is not some set of philosophical propositions. It's not some set of, kind of ethereal, metaphysical practices or beliefs to embrace, or meditations to execute, or any of those kinds of things. Every single thing about it is actual, factual, historically evidence based, that you can validate through history and archaeology. And so that's part of the beauty of what you see always being uncovered, where the events took place. As archaeology uncovers and reveals real history, it just keeps saying over and over, this is real, this is real, this is real, this is real. What the Bible said actually, oh yeah, it actually did happen right there, or the way it said. Everything from, I shared in the story of how archaeology has uncovered Philistine great halls, where the two supporting pillars were right next to each other in the middle of the whole building, which, before this, people who read the story of Samson knocking down the building were like, that's ridiculous, how could you do that? Now all of a sudden archaeology goes, well, what do you know? This exactly was the design somebody could do, or if somebody could, God given the supernatural strength, it's absolutely architecturally, engineeringly plausible to knock a building down that's standing on the two support pillars right in the middle of the structure. So somebody could lay their hands on that, and if they had enough strength, could knock the whole building down. But it's over and over and over. It's the walls of Jericho falling in. It's just on and on and on. Everything in the Bible is that way. So anyway, I say all that, and just, given the uh, going specifically to the resurrection of Jesus, the eyewitness accounts are so numerable. The written recordings are so contemporary, so close to the actual events, that anyone could have discredited it completely if it had not been true. And then really the exclamation mark on just the historic veracity of all of these details, so that we can be confident it's not just one big confirmation bias, is to watch the apostles, as best we know, those most vociferous of ambassadors and eyewitnesses to the resurrection of Jesus. They saw him, touched him, felt him, spent time with him, ate with him, all these things. He died and he rose again. They all were killed, all but one were killed because they wouldn't stop saying that. And I think that's an exclamation mark on our confidence and the truthfulness of what we believe in, because there's no way, if they were lying or making it up or trying to scheme out some new religion, there's no way that 10 out of 11 of them, I mean, 10 out of 10 that got killed, that at some point, one of them certainly had enough sense of self-preservation to go, you know what, we made that up. Let me live. But they didn't. And they died. And that just kind of helps, I think, put an exclamation mark on that. But so that's huge. Thanks. Great question. Okay, here's a great question. Second one. It says, where do we draw the line in the sand on defense of truth as Christians, obviously? There are moral issues like abortion where we believe truth is life. However, in the defense of that truth, others see hate. Should the only truth we truly defend be the gospel message? Um, yeah, great question. I think we defend truth in all of its forms and all places and all times. Now, with some discretion and discernment, with love, with compassion, with understanding, with mercy, all of those things, understanding the audience within which we might be speaking or whatever the case is. So we got to have a little bit of discernment in our application. But at the end of the day, sometimes we're tempted to think, well, you got love and mercy, and it's contrasted with truth. You got the love over here, truth over here. The reality is that if it's not truth, it is not love. They're not separate things. And that you hear the saying that the truth will set you free, but it might really tick you off first. It might really make you angry first, and that is the reality. But we have to love enough to understand that. Now, we don't present it in a way that's unnecessarily aggravating or hostile in any way. I think and Jesus is our model for this. He was just direct, clear, unapologetic, but not argumentative or antagonistic. And so there's ways to do that. We have to understand that diplomatically and whatnot. But you know, uh, and obviously picking and choosing battles, and there are some priorities, and there would be a hierarchy of what's most important to give attention to. And some things in some contexts, we kind of let that go, because we want to not make a minor thing as if it were a major thing every time. That's true. But anyway, I don't know if that helps or not, but across the board, truth brings life and freedom, even the small expressions of it or the most massive ones. Um, and so, as people who are here to bring life and peace, we're kind of finely tuned in to every expression of truth along the way. So, great question. Okay, I love the little funny comments that come in along the way. And so somebody just texted in that Mark, the gospel writer, was quote unquote streaking for Jesus. So I guess that's one way to process and interpret that. I appreciate that. Okay, and this sometimes they aren't questions, and sometimes they aren't just humorous comments. They're just kind of helpful comments. So that's this one. Let me share this. It says, I think it's so important for the youth in the church to know that making the right choice does not become easy just because you grow up in age. Committing to truth at a young age builds a foundation that makes it easier to further build on later in life. But being wishy-washy in your youth lays a foundation that is weak and crumbling. Yeah, that's exactly right. What a great word. I don't know if any of our students listen to this, parents of young ones do, but man, making that commitment to be a person absolutely committed to truth from the earliest age doesn't mean that the battle to to stay true to that gets completely easy forever, but it certainly builds momentum in the right way. It builds a foundation that's strong, and the more we're wishy-washy or not committed in that context, yeah, it's just spelling trouble, which can snowball over the course of our lives because the stakes get higher as we get older and as life goes on, and the consequences get more severe. So it's significant to make some of these core, transforming commitments early. Yeah, great observation. Okay, here's a good question. So it says, in the darkest hour, Judas is portrayed as the betrayer. The high priests are shown to be unjust, and the crowds are shown to be unruly. However, with Pilate, the narrative shifts. They display him questioning the crowds and being amazed with Jesus, and eventually washing his hands as a recognition of Jesus' innocence. Why do the gospel writers show a sympathy towards Pilate that isn't afforded to the other antagonists? Yeah, Here's what I would say to that. I mean, it's my observation. I don't know that how you're handling this is dead accurate here necessarily. I don't know that the gospel writers are showing any sympathy towards Pilate. I think they're showing what is. I think they're just presenting each person, each group in the context accurately. Certainly, I don't think Pilate's exonerated by any stretch. I don't think him washing his hands is a statement of that he's all of a sudden free of innocence. It's him kind of making a ineffectual attempt to he's kind of passing the buck, or he's being kind of more, he's being wimpy in this sense too. He's like, not my fault, somebody else's fault. But when he had it in his hands, actually his authority to make a different decision, he caved in, he cowered to the pressure. So I don't think he's presented sympathetically or positively in any sense of the word. And the others, I don't think, are being unduly or unjustly misrepresented negatively. I just think they're just being told, here's who did what, and here's what they did, and here's how they did it. And yeah, it's awful. And in fact, when we get into, I don't know, we're going to get into it when we're studying Psalms, but Peter, when he preaches on the day of Pentecost, he's challenging the crowds. He says, "You guys were there. They Pilate wanted to give Barabbas. I mean, we wanted to give you the choice between Jesus or Barabbas. You chose. He said he's kind of convicting the crowds for condemning Jesus that day, and among them many that day, up to 3,000 accept Christ and are baptized as his followers right there in Jerusalem on the day of Pentecost. So yeah, I think all along the scriptures are just presenting the reality of the situation. I don't think anybody's getting kind of preferential treatment in how they're presented or detrimental treatment in how they're presented. But yeah, thanks for that question. Yeah. Okay. So this last question for this week is we've kind of hit on it a little bit, but it just says the world can rightly accuse most Christians of confirmation bias, selective sampling, and groupthink for the way we build our worldview. We attend a church we agree with and tend to listen to teachers we already agree with. The Jewish people would likely also accuse us of confirmation bias as we continue to see Jesus in the Old Testament. How should we as Christians guard against these pitfalls in our own search for truth? Yeah, great. So, I mean, there's no real magic way. It's just going to have to be simple, basic fundamentals of continuing to try to bring ourselves to as objective of an approach as we possibly can, to be aware of the tendencies toward these things, and to try to keep a check on it. Ask the Lord to help us keep a check on it. Ask the Lord to reveal truth to us. Examine everything as objectively as we can. Ask, is this true? What are the corroborating points of evidence that would hold it up as truth? And so, but all that to say, too, same time, kind of the other side of that same coin, we want to guard against those things and not just kind of mindlessly, like little lemmings, kind of regurgitate the sound bites of people that we've latched onto, or groups that we've supported. Be aware of that. If you hear yourself doing that without thinking, we can't detach our belief from our analysis, our reason. And so we got to be, our faith is reasonable. It's evidence based. All of these things. It is reality. But that also doesn't mean, just because there are large swaths of people who agree, it doesn't mean that is confirmation bias, right? Praise the Lord. We want huge groups. We want billions of people to unanimously and uniformly say to, Jesus, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. You are my Savior. And so we want that agreement. And so at the same time, we don't want to artificially beat ourselves up because we are a part of the great throng, the great multitudes gathered around the throne. So, and at the same time too, the longer you've gone through your life, you've gone through a thorough process, a legitimate, objective handling as best you can of the different claims and different propositions and different, kind of beliefs that people have presented. You don't have to, there's some of them you've handled already, and so it doesn't mean you're succumbing to groupthink or selective sampling. If you like, for in my case, I've gone some thorough down the road analysis of Jehovah's Witness claims, Mormon claims, Islamic claims. I've read the Quran, other groups. For someone comes up to me and says, read the Quran, I say, I'm not. I have already, and I've dug into it. Or hey, come sit with me and let me explain to you the claims of Joseph Smith and his writings. Like, I don't need to go dive back into that again. I have done that. So there is a sense that we can even more over time gravitate towards, and not. It's not. I don't believe it's an arrogant statement or position for me, and I think many Christians, and hopefully we all get there. But I know what is true. I'm confident in what is true. I'm clear on what is true, and I believe. And if you've been around our church much, I think I try to just be who I am and be an honest, transparent reflection. I'm more than open and willing to confess on things. I don't know that for sure. I don't know about this. I'm not, so I certainly don't in any arrogant way claim to know everything, kind of a thing. Open to learning new things, open to considering. But boy, there's a growing volume of things that I'm completely confident in, absolutely certain of. And that's not, a misplaced, arrogant form of confirmation bias. We dig in, we examine the evidence, we seek to know, and we're not ashamed to say we do know. And if that number is billions, then awesome. That doesn't mean that's confirmation bias. That means there's people coming to know the truth, and that's what we pray for, and that's what we work for. So, hey, great questions, y'all, and I'll look forward to our time together next time when we get back together on Knowing More.